That was supply. That was analysis of supply of houses and condos that are less than 30 years old, condos that are more than 30 years old, the amount of transactions that we wrote, the dollar volume. It's a very robust market here in South Florida. 2026 is going to be a big year. The interest rates continue to go down, and people keep moving here. We got this data point from the U.S. Census Bureau that I thought was of interest for all of you. From west to the southeast, last year, the western part of the U.S. population grew by 687,000 people. Midwest, 434. Northeast, 410,000 people. And the southeast, from Texas to Florida, 1.7 million. That's over half of the entire gain of the population of the United States happened in the southeastern section of the U.S., which is where we are here in Miami. Yeah, the population gain of the United States last year was 3.3 million. Please remember that despite all of these immigration arguments, discussions that are happening lately, we are still the third fastest growing country in the world. Number one is India. Number two is China. And number three is us, is the United States. We happen to be selling real estate, you and me, in that part of the country that is experiencing over half of the population growth. Florida in particular is the second fastest growing state in the country and the third fastest growing country in the world. Another new record. 2025 is the year of lots of new records. I remember sitting here last January and bragging about 1,280 people a day moving to the state of Florida, which shattered all previous records for the state of Florida until 2025. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, we grew by 1,350 people every single day. So we beat the 2024 record. What will 2026 look like? I don't know. I'm guessing it's going to stay at least at 1,350. Wouldn't surprise me if it's a little bit more. The only state that outgrew Florida last year was Texas. They grew by 1,450 people a day. Every single day. Number 3, 4, and 5, honestly, just doesn't matter. It's all about Texas and Florida. C.B. Richard Ellis helped us explain a little bit of the profile of the growth of South Florida. This little chart gives you some names of some notable companies around the world, but particularly here in the U.S., that have relocated operations here to South Florida last year. What does all this mean? Well, when you look at, say, California, all the way on the West Coast, you see that number 34? There were 34 Fortune 400 and Fortune 500 companies just from California that relocated to South Florida. When you look at Illinois, where Chicago is, there were 20 major companies that relocated their operations here to South Florida. When you look at New York, there were 62 notable firms that relocated their operations to South Florida all last year. This data we received from C.B. Richard Ellis. It's another indication of the strength of the profile of the people and the companies that are redefining living in South Florida. So everybody, we just finished talking about demand. You know, I've been writing this Miami report with my co-writer, Athena Rosano, for now 17 years. Yeah, we're in our 17th year of the Miami report. And we always talk about the numbers of people that are moving to Florida. And then we try to determine how much of that is South Florida. By the way, it's about 1/3. So we just talked about last year's record of 1,350 people per day net moving to the state of Florida. And again, about 1/3 of that comes to what we call South Florida, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. So those are the numbers. I have asked my real estate colleague and my friend Anna Bosevich to join me in this particular Miami report, this year in review of 2025. And I'm kind of a research expert now. Athena and I just don't rely on Google and our own sense of research or speaking to the various developers that ISG represents or that I represent over the years. No, we go into every source of data we can find. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to name other companies, but there are lots of companies that produce market reports. And the only one that I read thoroughly is yours. You showed up for me and for Athena like a meteor out of the sky, offering a different kind of examination, a different kind of research, a different kind of perspective beyond what we do at the Miami Report. And, last year, you and I talked about this. UBS came out with that article sometime in the summer suggesting a pricing bubble was going to hit. I think it was Miami, Tokyo, London, Los Angeles, and Miami was on that list. And both of us, at one of the speaking events that we both shared, looked at each other and said, how is this possible? And how could UBS get this wrong? Folks, Anna, aside from being a real estate broker, she has a company called Anna Analytics, AnnaAnalytics.com.
Analytics.Miami.
Miami, sorry, thank you. I find her to be the gold standard of macro research, and not just pointing out what's happening, but why. Anna, I have, as I said, I've talked about last year's population gain of 1,350 a day. I have made reference in this particular Miami report about this wealth migration that I copied from you. Those are your words.
Thank you.
But I've also, in reading your research, I understand what you mean, but I can't explain it like you can. So if you can, it's not just the numbers of people that are moving here, it's the profile of the people that are moving here.
It's the profile and it's the why.
Yes, exactly, thank you. The profile and the why. So for all of those that are watching this presentation, most of whom are real estate agents, if I may sound like I might sound a little braggadocious, and I don't mean to come off like that, but literally all over the world now, all over, certainly Florida, the U.S., and all throughout Latin America, they watch the Miami Report.
Thank you. I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. And I'm always looking to improve it, to make it more valuable for everybody that's watching this presentation. And that's why I'm so grateful that you joined us today on this really year in review of 2025. I need you to give everybody a glimpse into what you see coming in 2026.
A glimpse into the future. Let's go.
So what does this wealth migration mean? And by the way, keep this in the back of your mind. In my mind, this has happened since 2020.
Yes.
What kind of legs does this wealth migration have?
This is still early days. This is a transformational shift in our country away from 20th century realities that we'd all grown accustomed to. A new reality is emerging. It's being defined by increased wealth mobility, both domestic and global. And the patterns are very, very clear. In our country, it's a migration. So we mentioned population movements.
You say clear. Please make it crystal clear.
I'll make it crystal clear.
Thank you.
This is, in our country, this is taxpayers moving away from high tax jurisdictions into low tax jurisdictions. The high tax jurisdictions also tended to be high lockdown jurisdictions. This is all part and parcel. It tends to be with party affiliation.
Lockdown during 2020.
Yes, correct. And so COVID, in many ways, was this cataclysmic event that constrained the movement of people. Thus, it broke habits. People are creatures of habit. If you think about it, the internet came at the very end of the 20th century. It came piecemeal. It wasn't the fast thing we have today right away. It was dial up, and it was incorporated piecemeal into existing habits, existing epicenters, existing office structures, all of that. COVID came, it broke habits long enough to allow for the formation of new ones. That was one of the effects. And then all of a sudden, a certain percentage of people realized they were no longer held captive the same way to their geography.
I say it a little bit more simply. It changed everything.
It changed everything. And it's all, and within this framework, it's important to realize that change is inevitable.
Yes.
I talk about this. Change is the nature of the world, and yet people, there's this kind of thing in the human mind where people think that the present is sacrosanct and it's going to be that way forever. It is not. Think how different the world was 100 years ago. Think how different it was 50 years ago.
Lord,
yeah. Why would the next 50 years of change be any less rapid? If anything, they'll be more rapid due to increases in interconnectivity and technology. So there are periods in history that are defined by rapid change. I look at the most recent example before this one is the aftermath of World War II. That's when our 20th century world was created. That was post-Bretton Woods, pre-internet. That was when New York City emerged as the capital of the 20th century world. And now we're it was not before. London was before.
It was all London.
New York is not forever. Nothing is forever.
Yeah,
Silicon Valley is not forever either. It's only existed for a few decades. Nothing is forever. This is all a blink of an eye, and change is inevitable. And so now we have a new reality that's forming, and the mobility of wealth that's being enabled by technology is a huge, huge factor. And what we're seeing clearly in our country, if you analyze census data in conjunction with IRS data, and I did an analysis in 2023, the IRS published interstate migration patterns. I made a whole table showing biggest losers, biggest gainers, all the 50 states, plus District of Columbia, and I made another line there, another column showing top marginal tax rates for the states, political affiliation of sitting governor. And the pattern could not be more clear. The biggest winners, of course, were Florida and Texas. We're neck and neck, but we're 4 times smaller. And the biggest losers were California and New York.
And New York, yeah.
And it's just the pattern could not be more clear.
What was that stat?
Yes, there's a stat that organization did their own sort of compilation of these data points, and they found that the state of Florida gains a taxpayer, I think it was every 2 minutes and 9 seconds, while the state of California loses one every minute 44, and the state of New York loses one every 2 minutes 22, something like that.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
So it's not just population, it's what kind of population, it's taxpayers.
There you go.
And the top 1% in high tax jurisdictions like New York City, like the state of California, account for over 40% of revenue. So what ends up happening is that you create momentum cycles. And this is a very important kind of mathematical concept to understand. These things, the things that we're seeing in our market, in the outperformance of our luxury market, of our new and prime product, this didn't happen in a vacuum, it didn't happen out of nowhere. There are forces that are creating this, momentum cycles that are building. And while we're gaining taxpayers, these high tax jurisdictions are losing them.
Which exacerbates their deficit problem.
Yes, we have positive momentum forming. They have negative momentum forming. And these are budgetary death loops, for lack of sound ominous, that are forming there. Because you start losing just 10% of your high value taxpayers, what have you done? And then, of course, the socialist-leaning politicians in power will double down on tax policies and tax whoever is remaining. And this is just inevitable. This script is as old as time. It's been written over and over again. There's no other way it's going to go. And so they're going to keep increasing their hostilities to capital, as we're seeing in California. The recent billionaire tax has been in the news, as we saw with the election of Mamdani in New York City. This is all part of that same pattern. Meanwhile, we're emerging as a path of least resistance for entrepreneurship, wealth, and capital. And that's an important concept, because these forces don't die. They move to where they can flourish.
If I may talk about our former mayor, Mayor Francis Suarez. Back in 2020, we went to California, he went to New York, he went to Chicago, and said, he said, we're open for business, and how can I help? It was the opposite of a hostile attitude.
Completely opposite.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And again, these things build over time. So people saying in the news, you and I have both done a lot to refute negative press that's been biased against us. Yeah. It was almost like the success of our region and city was contrary to the identity politics of many of these organizations publishing these articles. And also there's a resistance to belief that there's a shift going on. It's human, I don't know, they're kind of resistant to change. But it is what it is, and it's just begun.
So in my point of view, I think I've seen this wealth. I've been here for 32 years. I have never seen the amount of wealthy people, not just buying expensive homes, particularly on the water, but changing, cuisine, changing sports tickets, concert tickets, changing kind of everything here. And as I said to one of the agents that works for me this morning, I said, listen, this is no longer your mom's and dad's Miami.
No, it's not.
This is a completely new Miami. Fasten your seatbelt, because I kind of copied you. I think we're in early momentum.
Absolutely.
Well, because a lot of people want to know, and I know it's a guess, but nobody has the amount of that's put in the kind of time that you have. By the way, this woman has a master's degree from Columbia University in New York City. Her credentials are there. So when I ask her to give us her crystal ball forecast, I think you pretty much rely on it, because God knows I am. How much more time, how many years does Miami have? Miami being Fort Lauderdale, Miami being Palm Beach, call it South Florida.
The same patterns are persisting.
To enjoy this wealth migration.
Well, we have to ask ourselves, for the reality that we're seeing, for it to reverse, what would need to happen?
That's a fair way of looking at it.
That's the question, right? We have to identify the forces that are creating what we have. So the forces that we've identified are this tremendous wealth and talent migration domestically, and the increasing mobility of global wealth. That's another important factor.
Yes.
Last year had the record amount of high net worth individuals changing their addresses globally. It's a whole thing. This phenomenon is happening internationally, and we're at the receiving end of both domestic and international wealth. So we would have to ask ourselves, what would need to happen for this reality to change? On a simple level, domestically, we would have to have a net migration of high value taxpayers back to the high tax states from which they fled. Do we see this happening?
No,
of course
they
not.
They have to lose their minds.
Yes. We had now in the news, it's the opposite. Our positive momentum is building. What is the bank that's opening up their wealth division now in West Palm Beach?
Wells Fargo.
Yes. And that's the first example of a major headquarters of a major bank being opened up rather than just a division. So this is all part of this momentum, and it's just begun. So why would we see reversal? Why would we see all of a sudden interstate migration en masse going back to high tax states? While those high tax states are only increasing their hostilities towards capital. It's basically a zero chance of that happening.
So more than likely, we're going to continue to see.
This is going to build over the next 20 years.
The next 20.
Absolutely.
That's what I wanted to hear from Milosevic.
Absolutely.
Because We have a mutual friend, Jeffrey Rossi, who said to me that in a conversation you had with him, he's a developer of a beautiful condominium here on Miami Beach, and he said that Anna said to me that we're in our 5th year of a 20-year wealth migration. And I said, Papa, another bottle of wine. How nice that would be.
100%.
How nice that would be.
And we're seeing that in the data. We had record sales volume, past $30 million last year across single family and condos, record transaction volume at very high prices per square foot that didn't exist before. We're transacting regularly past $3,000 a foot. That was basically zero in 2019.
Right.
It's a whole new reality.
And when I think about the chatter in cocktail parties with a lot of real estate agents that were concerned about high mortgage rates, they were concerned about various wars around the world, they were concerned about UBS. When you look at the segment of people that are moving to South Florida, the wealth migration, it made 25 look like it just did not care about the cocktail party gossip.
Nope.
South Florida is moving forward.
Yep, 1,000%.
Listen, I'm going to be asking you to come back here for some more, because let me show you what else is coming. I mean, that's some of the hard information that's affecting not just the people moving here, but you're getting a sense now of the profile of the people that are moving here and why it has legs, meaning longevity, meaning perhaps we really are in year 5 of a 20-year migration pattern, which sets South Florida as truly the outlier in so many ways, not just from a real estate perspective.
In so many ways. And it's like the cat's out of the bag. Word got out.
Yeah.
It's not just even simple economics. There's a high quality of life here too.
Even the press is having to bow to it a little bit.
I think perhaps they're opening local offices here, and the journalists like living here as well, maybe.
Well,
listen, it's not for nothing. We're experiencing summer while the rest of the country's in a blizzard. This is a small nuance, but it's not like you're moving to some place that's difficult or has harsh conditions to save money. That's not it at all. It's a better quality of life all around.
It bothered me a little bit that I was on the beach this past Sunday in 80-degree weather when my son and daughter, who live in New York, were experiencing 11 inches of snow. It bothered me with just a little bit. And then look at this. We've got the World Cup coming here this year. Every 4 years, most popular sport in the world celebrates its World Cup once every 4 years. And this year they're coming to Miami. And because of President Trump, at the end of this year, we have the G20 summit.
Yep. How amazing is that? This is just the spotlight continuing to shine as another example.
And in your opinion, more to come?
Absolutely, it's just begun. Truly, momentum is a real thing. It's a real force. It continues to build. And most people, one thing I've learned from publishing these reports I've been doing the last 10 years is that I've really had to learn how to communicate trend lines to people. I've looked at patterns my entire life. So if something looks obvious to me, it isn't necessarily. And I've seen that most people, for whatever reason, they have difficulty extrapolating out the trend. And so the same applies to momentum cycles. There's this resistance to the brain to seeing the new reality emerging until it becomes so obvious that it basically hits you in the face.
That is very true.
And that's what's happening here. So while we're building this positivity, again, our feeder jurisdictions are building negativity. And I grew up in New York City. I have no joy in saying this. I loved New York City at some point in my life. I stayed there for college. I thought I lived there my whole life. I love New York. And it makes me sad. Their current mayor quite literally quotes the Communist Manifesto. Mm-hmm. Now, what he, literally, yes, I mean, quite literally. So what he can do remains to be seen. He's not a king. He can't just decree. He's just a mayor, right? So he's limited in his powers. But the influence is not good, obviously. It sets a very bad precedent, a bad tone. And he's the mayor of New York quoting the Communist Manifesto. What is this?
It is a new road of more buyers, more people wanting to live their lives in Florida.
Yeah.
California, all over, and all 4 corners of the United States.
And the world.
Yes.
It's the world stage.
And then we've always had Latin America, and now we're experiencing Europe as well.
Correct.
Anna Bosevich, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
This is going to be, I'm going to stick my chin out and say this is one of the more interesting Miami reports that we have ever produced. And so much of it is because you joined me today, filling in a lot of questions that I get asked when I present this report in so many places, particularly in South America. Thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'm a huge fan of your work and what you do.
Well,
this is such an exciting time in our history, in our country, in our region, and I think that it's such a great thing that we're documenting this. And I think we'll look back at this years from now and say, wow, look at that. It was early days.
We were right. We pinned it down on the donkey.